It was an ordinary morning on a lonely desert highway, where the wind carried whispers across endless sand and the horizon shimmered in the heat. A convoy of vehicles thundered by, each lost in its own urgency, but for Officer Arjun and his loyal K-9 partner, Rex, this was just another patrol. At least, that's what they thought. Nothing in their training, nothing in their experience, could prepare them for the chilling moment when Rex, without a single command, ran into the middle of the road and sat down directly in front of a massive blue truck barreling toward them. The screech of brakes filled the air, dust rose in spirals, and time itself seemed to hold its breath. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the unbreakable loyalty of animals, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who loves dogs, and subscribe to Positive Tales. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind the world of the power of compassion. The truck shuddered to a halt, the desert silence broken only by the groan of its brakes. Officers rushed forward, confusion etched on their faces. Rex, however, did not move. His eyes were locked on the truck, his body still as stone, his ears pricked in warning. For those who knew Rex, this was no accident. He was not a dog who acted without reason. Every sit, every bark, every sudden pause carried meaning. And this time, his message was one that would change everything. The driver, a middle-aged man with sweat dripping down his face, stepped out nervously, insisting there was nothing wrong. He waved his documents, tried to smile, even attempted to joke about Rex's stubbornness. But Arjun, who had worked alongside Rex for years, saw something in his partner's eyes that made his stomach twist. There was urgency there, and fear, as if Rex sensed something hidden, something dark, lurking inside that blue truck. The officers decided to search. At first glance, everything seemed normal, boxes stacked neatly, sealed crates, and papers that appeared in order. But Rex refused to move. He scratched at one particular section of the truck, growling low in his throat, a sound that always signaled danger. The officers pried open the crates, one after another, until finally, with a sharp crack, the lid of a wooden box came loose. What they found inside froze their blood. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't weapons. It was far worse. Inside were children, frightened, pale, trembling children, bound and hidden away like cargo. Their wide, terrified eyes blinked against the sudden flood of sunlight. The youngest couldn't have been more than 5. Their lips were dry, their tiny hands tied, their cries muffled by cloth that had been cruelly stuffed into their mouths. And in that moment, everyone understood what Rex had done. He had seen what no one else could. He had placed his life in the path of danger to stop a truck that carried innocence in chains. The desert seemed to weep that day as officers lifted the children out one by one, their frail bodies shaking from fear and exhaustion. Some of them clung desperately to their rescuers, while others simply collapsed into arms that finally felt safe. The driver was handcuffed, his protests drowned by the cries of those he had imprisoned. And in the middle of the chaos, Rex sat calmly, his eyes softening as though he knew his mission was complete. But the story did not end on that road. Each child carried a story of survival, of families torn apart and lives nearly destroyed. For Officer Arjun, the rescue became more than just a successful operation, it became a haunting reminder of how fragile life is and how sometimes, salvation comes from the most unexpected protectors. The case made national headlines, but while newspapers praised the bravery of the officers, it was Rex whose courage had made the impossible possible. That night, back at the station, Arjun sat quietly with Rex. The dog lay beside him, his head resting on Arjun's lap, his breathing steady and calm. For Arjun, it was overwhelming to think how close they had come to missing the truth, how easily the truck could have disappeared into the horizon, taking dozens of young lives with it. He stroked Rex's fur slowly, whispering silent gratitude, knowing words would never be enough to honor what his partner had done. The days that followed were filled with questions, investigations, and stories of reunion. Parents wept when they were finally reunited with their children, clutching them as though they would never let go again. Some of the children were too young to even understand what had happened, but they would always remember the strong arms that lifted them out of darkness and the brown-eyed dog who refused to let them be taken further into despair. Rex became a symbol of hope, his picture appearing in headlines, his story traveling far beyond the desert. But behind the spotlight was a deeper truth. Rex had not only saved the children, he had saved the officers too. He had reminded them that justice is not just about rules and uniforms, it is about compassion, about listening to instincts, about never ignoring the silent cries that only a loyal heart can hear. The bond between Arjun and Rex deepened after that day. They became inseparable, each depending on the other in ways words could not capture. Arjun often thought about how different things would have been had Rex not acted. That thought alone kept him awake many nights, staring at the ceiling, imagining what could have been. And every time he looked over at Rex, asleep peacefully on his blanket, he felt both humbled and inspired. In life, there are heroes we expect to wear badges, and then there are heroes who carry no titles, only love and instinct. Rex was one of those heroes. And while the world moved on, he remained the silent guardian, always alert, always ready, never asking for recognition. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of loyalty, courage, and unconditional love, please support us by liking this video, subscribing to Positive Tales, and sharing it with someone who needs to believe in hope again. Your engagement keeps these stories alive and inspires us to tell many more. And before we end, we have a special request: leave a comment below sharing what this story meant to you, or tell us about a moment when an animal showed you unexpected love or protection. Your words might inspire someone else who is struggling to see the goodness still left in this world. Because sometimes, heroes don't arrive with sirens or uniforms. Sometimes, they arrive on 4 legs, with fur, with bright eyes that see what we cannot, and with hearts that never hesitate to save us even from the unthinkable.